Ladies and gentlemen, followers of the dark gods alike, I, the champion of Slaanesh, the greatest duelist in the universe, Lucius the Eternal, will entertain you tonight. I shall cut down every champion that steps forward who wishes to test their skills against my blade. However, I am not the only entertainment. You may also indulge your senses and listen to the podcast Chaos Divided, with your hosts Nurgle, Snurgle, and Blushing Noise Marine. Now, listen closely. As they tantalize your ears, I shall entertain you by showing you the true meaning of pain. Let us begin.
Welcome to Chaos Divided, your weekly dose of Wholesome Hammer. If you're a fan of what we do, we hope you'll subscribe and follow us along, and if you'd like to support us directly, you can find us on patreon.com/chaosdivided40k. I'm excited to have our extra special guest, BloodGod, start us off with a quote.
Brothers, welcome to the feast. Tell me, which of you shall be the first course? Quote from Lucius the Eternal, from the 6th edition Chaos Marine Codex.
Oh, so good.
Thank you.
Also, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Welcome to the first show of the new year.
First episode of Season 2. We made it.
Season 2.
We're all still alive. The world did not implode.
That was only 2012 that was supposed to happen. Now we I guess to end 2000.
It's now changed to 2029.
I'm just hoping the Chaos God show maybe start
There's
working.
like a meteor that's supposed to come.
Yeah, like
we're just gonna Armageddon this stuff.
Every year's a new apocalypse. I'm waiting for the year of like 2030 when the rift opens and chaos becomes real. I'll be like, yeah.
Oh wow.
I mean, you'd want to die fast, but you'd die good.
Oh no, I'm joining Kharn's side.
Okay, now picture this. You're downtown, you look up, and you see a drop pod. What do you do?
First, identify the colors. Second, make an assessment. 3, decide if I'm going to run or kneel.
You're going to kneel regardless.
It depends on the color of the drop pod. If it's red, I'm booking it. You're all on your own.
Okay, what color do you want to see?
Blue.
Oh, okay.
Which blue, though?
Much like... you're
making a good point. Turquoise blue.
Blue with a gold trim or green with black trim would be preferential. Anything else is just, well, we're in trouble now. And if there's lightning,
that could be a question for the week.
I mean, green and like white, like Dark Angels could be like potentially not.
Yeah, potentially.
What about white scars?
White scars?
Yeah,
that could be fine. I'm just saying if it's a blue drop pod and there's lightning course getting across it, just load a pistol and shoot yourself right off the bat.
That's skin.
You know what that is. Like, is that a skin cloak on the pod? Yes, it is.
With a Fabius bile.
I wonder how easy it is to tell the difference between a Night Lords or a Thousand Suns drop pod when they're coming at you. Because there's very similar color schemes from a distance, and you'd be like, oh, Thousand Suns, things are about to get, oh no, those are Night Lords, oh no.
Yep. You ever wonder where Fabius Bile's getting rid of all that extra skin left over? Now you know.
I just picture drop pods like NASCAR with a bunch of logos.
I just imagine Fabius Bile standing there with a wad of cash in his hand, counting 20s as you see 3 Night Lords rolling out these barrels full of skin out of some kind of vault on his planet.
Yes.
Him shakes hands with one of them, thank you. Tell no one.
I mean, who would ever even listen to a Night Lord? You'd have to stop long enough to... Who would actually listen to a Night Lord? You'd have to stop long enough to talk to them and not end up flayed.
That is very true. Although if you did listen to them, it would sound very beautiful and flowery because that's the sound of their language.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, Nostraman is actually referred to as gangster's poetry because it is so flowery and elegant, but it's really guttural. And I know I just cursed there. I apologize. Like, for instance, Shril la Lais is a phrase from Nostraman, and it means whore that mates with dogs.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Sounds pretty, but it's terrible.
Well, on that happy note, so this week we are breaking down the champions of chaos, and you can tell we have chaos on the mind.
Not just any champions, but the 4 major champions of each of the chaos gods.
Well, yeah, they're, if you're like the champion of like the word bearers, nobody cares who you are.
No, they don't care who you are.
Oh,
they don't care. They don't care. You're worshiping everybody. You're just dipping your toes in each one of the pools. Just dive in, baby.
What about the Iron Warriors?
Iron Warriors don't like demons.
But do they have a champion?
Who's their like Legion Master right now?
Yeah, he's search with an H. Hugo Harbo. I know he has a big metal arm. I just can't remember his name right now. But he's nothing special.
Ouch.
Well, they don't even have models.
Mm-mm.
Like, there's models for like weird offshoot pirate Legion war bands, and
nothing for the Iron Warriors.
They got Vashtor.
Yeah, it's true. Vashtor's there.
Just floating amongst them.
Oh, Hanzu. That's his name. Hanzu. Warpsmith Hanzu.
Yeah, that's lame.
Warsmith Hanzu of the Iron Warriors. Yeah, he's nothing. He's fine. He's alright.
So who are these 4 chaos champions that we should know all about?
Well, we got Kharn the Betrayer, Lucius the Eternal, Typhus, host of the Destroyer Hive, and Ahzek Ahriman, former banished member of the Thousand Sons, now back to being their chief librarian. Or sorcerer, as it would be.
So what makes them champions?
Well, what makes them champions is the amount of chaos boons and gifts they have received from their gods. And that's generally how champions of chaos define how powerful they are. The more you do in the name of your god, the more favor you get, the more attention you get, the more gifts you get, and eventually you can grow to demonhood. And I'd say these 4 individuals are as close as you can come to like that last step of becoming demon, like a full demon prince, potentially.
I feel like they're even actually more powerful than demon princes.
Well, they definitely are.
Like to rise to to ascend to being a demon prince would actually like relegate some of their power, because part of it is in their like they still have their mortality in some ways.
They still have their own ambition. They still have their own will and whims that they can do. And I think the Chaos Gods enjoy that, because when you become a demon prince, just like Be'lakor, though you say my will is my own, your will is whatever the Chaos Gods want it to be. I think they actually enjoy letting these 4 mortals do their thing, and it's like a show for them. It's like, what's Kharn going to do today to make me happy? It's either that or it's like, oh, look, it's a rerun of Kharn the Betrayer. I know exactly what he's going to do to make me happy because he's a part of me right now. Okay, fair. This is just more entertaining for them because it's a game and it's pieces they don't know what they're really going to do.
I'm just picturing Kharn like putting his feet up after a hard day and like turning on the television. Like,
oh yeah,
channel Kharn.
There's an audio drama called Chosen of Kharn, and there's a part where it's described the warp is doing something, and I literally imagine Kharn doing that, flicking the tube on, and then suddenly he just gets the planet. It's like, yes, there's my boy right there.
Is there like a show just like The Bachelorette? Where it's Kharn, but instead he hands out skulls.
Oh yeah, you get this skull. Actually, I think it'd be a little bit of reverse where it's just his berserker.
Oh, I take your skull.
Yeah, I take your skull today. Shing. You
he goes around handing a skull, but inside of the skull is a plasma pistol, and he just like shoots them in the head.
Oh man,
I'm into this type of 40K entertainment.
Mm-hmm. I mean, those four get into so many different shenanigans. Like, I can't see why the Chaos Gods wouldn't enjoy that. You got Typhus infinitely fighting with his own dad. Lucius, who is that's just a whole bag of fun. That's a whole sitcom in itself. Ahzek Ahriman is like watching your favorite, I guess, nerd channel. And Kharn the Betrayer is sports.
I feel like Ahriman is also just like the never-ending tragedy bus. Like, when you're like get caught watching like a car accident or something? I feel like that's just Zinch watching Ahriman and just being like, how bad do I let this get? And the answer is always more.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let this keep going. It's like Simpsons. It never ends. You think it will, but it never ends.
Ahriman thinks it's like one more bit of knowledge.
Shows are there?
Oh, Lucius is just a whole sitcom in himself. That dude,
he would be a sitcom.
Oh, he'd be a one-man show.
If there wasn't so much murder, it would be actually quite zany.
Yeah.
Maybe like a game show?
I don't know. I can't see a game show.
No, it'd be more like a 90s like sitcom, only instead of like Lucius
married with Lucius
family, it's like Lucius just talking to his armor and all the souls screaming out of it as he gets up to shenanigans.
I was gonna say, instead of the crowd clapping and laughing, it's either screaming and wailing. Yeah.
Because like Lucius just goes out of his way to do things in the hardest possible way at times to like entertain himself. He's like, one of his biggest enemies is his own boredom.
That is 100% true.
Oh, so it's like Lucius and friends, but he is his own friend.
I mean, he has his own like war band. He has like, there are people that like follow Lucius still.
Oh,
he's like
the
second largest Emperor's Children. So the Emperor's Children is one of like the most fragmented legions. Eidolon like controls the largest portion, but Lucius has like the second largest contingent of Emperor's Children, and he mostly just goes around the galaxy doing whatever he wants and like plundering and raiding and mostly just looking for challenges. But we'll get into him later.
Exactly. We'll come back to him. Our first person we're speaking about is my boy, my friend, my pal, my favorite, should have better rules but doesn't, wish he was like he was in the lore as he was on the tabletop, Kharn the Betrayer. Blood for the blood god! Blood for the blood god! Blood for the blood god! Okay.
That was not scripted at all. Those two just like spontaneously broke out into that, and I got to just watch them like cheer into a microphone for everyone at home. That was unscripted. I was not expecting that.
When it comes to Kharn, you got to. You absolutely have to. So, where to begin with our axe-wielding friend?
Yeah.
What do you guys
think? Maybe at the beginning.
Well, the beginning. The first thing I do know about Kharn is that he was Terran-born originally. Before he ever met Angron during his travels in the Great Crusade, he was part of what was known as the Warhounds Legion, one of the first legions that the Emperor had made to go out into the galaxy and find the Primarchs. It wasn't until they found Angron and had their little incident with him on the ship that they became bonded. You see, little short part about Kharn and Angron here. When Angron was captured by the Emperor and brought onto the flagship of the Warhounds, which at that time was called the Adamant Resolve, captain upon captain upon captain, even the chapter master, had gone down to talk to Angron, and he'd killed each one of them. And the reason they didn't fight back in any way, shape, or form was that the Emperor had ordered them not to lay a hand upon Angron. So they'd walk into the room and they'd just get torn apart. However, when Kharn went down there, he actually fought back. He went into the dark room and he felt Angron's presence, and then he was bashed really hard into a wall, and Angron was upon him. But he did fight back against the Primarch. And in the last couple moments where the Primarch could have killed him, Kharn, laying on his back in a bloody mess on the deck, started telling Angron the stories of his legion, the honor that they had searching for him, what they had hoped to do, and all the battles that they had done, and he would be proud to die a warrior here at his feet, knowing what he had done during his time. And that's where that love story started. Then they just became best bros. They really did.
Kharn always wanted to be closer to Angron.
Yeah, he did.
Like, the world leaders, I think, overall wanted to, like, understand Angron, but I think Kharn really, like, led that charge. Like, he wanted to feel as his father felt.
He did. I mean, he even went against what general equerries would do. An equerry is someone that each of the Primarchs had one in the Legion. It was someone that they could sit down with, a fellow legionary who they could talk to as if they were a friend. Like, there's no rank, there's no anything. This is like, if I need to talk to somebody about something serious that I can't figure out, I'm going to talk to you about it in confidence. And generally the job of the equerry was to be the counter to whatever the Primarch was thinking. If the Primarch wanted to go to war, their job was to speak about reasons maybe why they shouldn't go to war, or let's look at this from a different point of view. Kharn didn't do that. You are correct. He actually wanted to be so much like his Primarch that he actually antagonized Angron into making those decisions about, like, making planetfall and attacking. Angron's like, I think we should attack. Kharn's like, yep, let's attack. We can do it. Sounds like a good idea, Dad. Let's go. Let's launch those pods, get the boys down there, let's do this thing. 9 times out of 10, Kharn was, like, attached to the hip, but with Angron on the battlefield, then they would separate every now and then, but they would always be close together.
But where does the epithet of the Betrayer come from?
So, the epithet of the Betrayer. Originally, Kharn never had that nickname, the Betrayer. Originally, he was known as Kharn the Bloody or Kharn the Twice Slain because he had died twice and came back. The Betrayer affectation came to him later, after the Horus Heresy. When the traitors were chased back into the Eye of Terra, they all went into a bit of a civil war themselves, vying and fighting for land and resources in the Eye. And one of these planets that they landed on, the 2 factions, which were the Emperor's Children and the World Leaders at the time, was a planet known as Skelethrax. On Skelethrax, the planet had a cycle where when night came, it was absolutely freezing. Like, if you were out in the cold, unprotected and not in shelter, you would die within a few minutes because your body would freeze. On the other side of the planet, where there was heat, at some points it would raise to the temperature of, like, it was well over 1,000 degrees, I believe, but because they were in their power suits, they were okay. So the Emperor's Children and the World Leaders kept fighting back and forth, but the Emperor's Children were able to push the World Leaders back time and time again with the new use of their sonic weapons, which had just become a new thing to their Legion prior to the Horus Heresy and the strike on Terra. So at one point, night started to come, and both sides were weary and tired, and they decided to take shelter, Emperor's Children and World Leaders alike. This enraged Kharn, not only for his enemies to be weak and cowardly to hide from this little winter and cold that this planet would bring upon them, but also seeing his own men do that as well. World Leaders, savage warriors, hiding in little hovels trying to stay warm. Enraged, he grabbed his axe and picked up the closest thing that was at hand, which was a flamethrower. And actually, that flamethrower for a short time was a legendary weapon or artifact in the game. And with that flamethrower, called the Brand of Skelethrax, he started burning everything. He walked through the cities, burning buildings, burning warriors, World Leader and Emperor's Children alike, cutting them down as he would go. Some of the captains of the World Leaders did try to stop him, but he swiftly cut them down, maniacally laughing as he went. And when they tried to say, why are you doing this, brother? He said, I have no brothers, and killed another captain. And that's where he got the name Betrayer, because of what he did. He basically fractured their legion, and that's why the World Leaders are, to a point now, no longer a fully functioning legion. They separate into hundreds upon hundreds of small war bands that have been sieging the galaxy all over in their own ways. It's only been recently that now the World Leaders seem to be slowly being pulled back together with the presence of Angron. But yeah, Kharn did that. He was the one that destroyed his own legion. In one of my favorite audiobooks, The Chosen of Khorne, there's a little moment on the sands where these 2 warlords are going back and forth, and they're trying to decide who gets the major spoils of this war, who will get the major end result of all these warriors that have been fighting. One guy has his own champion, the other guy has asked Kharn to fight, and the champion who had challenged him, his name was Taurogar, he looks at the other champion named Argus Braun and says, "Why is the Betrayer here? This is treachery." And he says, "Treachery, brother? What do you mean? Taraga gets really upset and goes, it was meant to be you, Argus Braun, not him. The betrayer there killed the Legion. Yeah. This little back and forth talking a little bit about Kharn in this little sequence, and then he just pipes up and says, you would have died that day too, Devourer. He's speaking to Taraga, if you had not fled like a coward. Draw a weapon and allow me to address that injustice.
Ooh.
That's some metal stuff right there. That's just hard.
You're selling me on Kharn. I always felt, having read through a lot of the Heresy, I felt like Kharn just was kind of like daddy issues. Because he spends a lot of time just like, him and Ahriman have that in common. They spend a lot of time just like trying to understand their Primarch, and like they kind of exist within their shadow.
Yeah. Well, I think
I need to learn more about 40k Kharn.
It wasn't until he accepted his role as the champion of Khorne, which it was after Angron had turned to a demon Primarch. There's another short audio drama where he's talking about the path that his legion is starting to walk, and he doesn't know where it's going to go. And at some point during a battle, Angron's roar of fury takes over the whole ship, and in the game it's an ability too, where when Angron used to roar, everybody around him in the vicinity would become full of rage and start fighting. When it happened to Kharn, his vision turned red, and he butchered one of his best friends in the arena on the flagship, the Conqueror. And after it was all said and done, he wakes up out of this like daze, looks around, wipes the like not even like blood or splatter, just like the thick goopiness of the flesh and blood off of his arms from his buddy, because he like massacred him. It was just...
Who was his buddy?
His name, if I remember, was Borok, and he used to be one of the Devourers. Kharn had made the comment that Borok was a true warrior because when he stood before him, he noticed his slab muscle torso was crisscrossed with old wounds, scars upon scars upon scars. And to Kharn, that told him that this warrior had faced every enemy and never shown his back. A true warrior. And Kharn wanted to fight him as such. But because of this rage taking him over, he butchered him. Like, there's no body parts left. There's no bones. This is just like hunks of flesh on the ground of what was left of this guy. And after that, this was an internal monologue, but Kharn goes, now I understand. I understand the path that my legion is walking, and it is a path far more damning. We walk the eightfold path, to which there is no turning back. He accepted his role and started to walk the path to the Skull Throne, and when he became Khorne's champion, he just fully embraced it. He doesn't have any friends. He has no allies. He is a single warrior in and of himself. And Khorne loves him because he has done pretty much... he's checked off every box that Khorne could ask for. Murder people? Check. Taken skulls? Check. Betrayed your brothers and killed them too? Check. Betrayed every single person around you? Check.
Could he betray Khorne?
I don't think so. I don't think that would ever happen. He's not that strong. Khorne is like beyond his strength. Although you can see that Khorne does favor him because he brings him back to life, and there is a small pile of skulls directly next to the throne of skulls in Khorne's hall that belongs to Kharn the Betrayer.
I love that. It sounds like a little dog bed or like a little thing in the corner. Yeah. Like, oh, that's my little Kharn.
It's even bigger than Skull Takers because Skull Taker does the same thing.
And it's in his name.
Yes. A demon of Khorne created by Khorne, whose literal name is Taking Skulls, who takes skulls and brings them back to the Lord of Skulls, does not have as big a pile as a champion of the mortals who is doing the exact same thing. Again,
you know, I think there's a bit of a theme there, though, that like even the demon primarchs of the respective gods are not as beloved as the champions.
No, I definitely agree with you there. I think the only one you could say would be Fulgrim.
Fulgrim and Slaanesh, I think, are on pretty good terms. But, like, even then, I think Slaanesh likes Lucius more.
Oh, yeah. Well, he keeps bringing them back to life. Like, each one of these guys has been given some kind of buff that just makes them unbelievable. Like, I wish this was an ability in the game. I really wish it was. But in the audio drama Trials of Azrael, Kharn is charging a, what are they called? A Justicar of the Grey Knights, which is a captain of a squad. He like leads an entire unit. And he's blasting him with smites and lightning coming out of his hands, and he's got blood trickling out of his nose, and there's like
as Kharn is charging him.
Yeah. There's hoarfrost growing on the side of his face and everything as he's trying to amplify this magic and this lightning bolt. It hits Kharn, but just coruscates off of his body like water on a rock.
That's terrifying.
He slams into this guy, punches them in the face, grabs him by the throat, lifts him up and says, "Kharn protects me, Grey Knight. A pity for you. You cannot say the same of your corpse emperor," and cuts the guy in half and just keeps going.
That's abhorring some sorcery right there.
Yeah, it's just like he should have the ability in the game where he just rolls a die, and if you cast a psychic power on him, denied. It just doesn't happen. I wish it was the ability. It was so cool to read. I think I read it like 6 times. It's like, oh. It even described like the blue of the lightning hitting his red armor and turning into a purple hue as it danced across his armor. Oh, beautiful.
So does he deflect magic all the time?
Not all the time. It seemed like this was one of the only occurrences in audio or novels that I had seen it happen. But it wouldn't surprise me. Like, he is Kharn's ultimate champion, and Kharn hates magic. Like, he despises it. And something else I also bring up about Kharn the Betrayer that a lot of people don't realize, they probably know now, is that he's not a psychopath. He's not like, well, he is, but he isn't. See, most champions or followers of Kharn are raving madmen. Kharn is something different. He is not as crazy as we all think. He's definitely nuts, but he has control over it. The two books that I read that made me realize this and why I fell in love with his character, The Chosen of Kharn. There are multiple monologues in this audio drama of Kharn talking to himself. And in his mind, he's describing horrific, bloodthirsty scenes of him ripping somebody apart and screaming and enjoying it. And when it comes back, he's still and calm, talking to them like a normal person with a very low, monotone voice and control, not twitching, not mad, not crazy. But then sometimes those actual monologues become what's happening on the outside world. But he's calculated. At the end of this book, he finishes his mission, kills the guys he's looking for, and an old man asks him, why did you do this? Why did you kill the last 2 members of the world leaders' captains? Like, I don't understand. And Kharn said it pretty plainly. He drops his axe, drops his helmet, sits down on someone's body and just says, "I have done what I set out to do. 8 skulls pledged to the Bloodfather in fire and oath. They were unworthy of his patronage, and I saw fit to see that through." And the old man realized that Kharn had done one thing. He had cemented that any person or any warrior that claimed their status to the Blood God as like a champion would be proven on the battlefield and not by the former rankings of the status in their legions, which a lot of these captains used to do. You'd have captain of the 17th Company, Agel Tal, or captain of the 5th Company, Taruga. They would still use their legion titles to command people, where Kharn was like, no, if you're going to command people and you're going to be a champion of Kharn, you prove yourself on the battlefield, and there's no other way to do that. And if you don't do that, you deserve to die. I will claim your skull in his name and show that to him. So he just cut that off at the very end right there.
Does Kharn have a favorite skull that he's collected?
Those 8. He actually carried them with him in a rope sack for a long time. And like the other
That's quote, a lot of skulls to be carrying around.
The other quote was by Abaddon himself, and this was to his Black Council. He said, "To anyone in this room that believes Kharn a raving madman, you're a fool. Behind that mask lies the keen intellect and cunning of a ruthless killer and hunter. If you think you can control him, you're foolish. Because the minute that you turn your back, your skull will be added to his pile. This is from Abaddon. Even Abaddon won't Kharn the Betrayer.
So if you were to meet Kharn in a hallway, you just don't lose your eye contact with him.
You don't lose your eye contact.
Be in another hallway.
Don't show fear. Do not
I'm a lamp,
show
I'm a lamp,
fear.
I'm a lamp.
Yeah, you don't show fear in any way. You control yourself. Like Mavin Bitterspear, the only reason he lived in that confrontation right there was because he kept calm. He said it to himself a long time ago as a child. He learned, if you show a beast any fear, you will be devoured. And it was very clear from the leftovers of the men sent down to speak to Kharn before, did not learn that lesson in their lifetime because he had to wade through the corpses to go talk to Kharn the Betrayer.
I feel like there needs to be like a horror video game where Kharn is the main bad guy and you gotta...
That's literally just a game of, what's it, what's that game where you pretend to be something else you're not? It's like Among Us, only he's like, I'm here and I'm chasing you through the ship.
Oh.
It'd be like one of those scary games where something's constantly chasing you. That would be the horror game.
When you like Kharn. Turn your back and like there's a
he's
stash.
there.
Yeah.
Or it's just like, oh, we're fine. He just bursts through the wall. Oh god! Keep running.
Yeah, I feel like Kharn is a better antagonist than a protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, running away from Kharn is more engaging than trying to be Kharn.
Did you ever hear about he single-handedly took down a warlord titan?
No.
So
by himself?
During
was it damaged or was it?
He took it down by himself. So during the Black Crusade, one of the Black Crusades, he's helping he's helping Abaddon, and he gets a whole building knocked on top of him by a titan. I'm trying to remember which type it was. I think it was a war dog, one of those like weird bipedal ones with the guns on their sides. And the only reason he got out and survived was Abaddon teleported onto it and it's like, we need to go. Come with me. Grabs him and teleports out.
Stop messing around.
Yeah. Stop this. Everything's dead already.
Well, I don't want to spend all night on.
I know.
Yes, I could go on forever about Kharn the Betrayer, but let's get on to our next champion. And I think
the man with a legion's worth of daddy issues and brother issues and just issues.
I'll let you take
Ahzek
the reins on
Ahriman.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Ahzek.
Ahriman's interesting because he very much like feels the weight of like the flesh change, like even from the very beginning. Like he's just like filled with guilt.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which the source of that is actually his brother, like his actual brother, was lost to the flesh change. So like Ahriman's like whole thing with trying to address like his legion's, flaw, is very much like primal to him.
He still had that. He had a silver leaf embossed on one of his shoulder pads to remember his brother's passing because of that, so he would never forget.
Is it quite rare to have brothers in legions together?
Not really.
I think they were even twin brothers.
Yeah.
Oh.
In some of the legions, it's actually not as rare as you think because every legion has different ways of bringing in aspirants to become Space Marines. So some of them, their tests are more rigorous than others. There's easier ways of doing it for some, and there's harder ways. Like some legions, I assume, want the best of the best, so they train them till there's like, out of 100 people, one guy lives. Others are probably like, we'll take what we can get.
And I'm guessing Thousand Suns was more about your intellect.
Yes, Thousand Suns are definitely more about your intellect and your ability to control the warp and use your psychic powers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ahriman, though, was one of the big proponents of still being a warrior.
He was,
like,
yes.
Like, he specifically honed himself as a warrior. Like, some of the Thousand Suns, it kind of, like, descended into scholarship. Ahriman never does.
Yeah, there was guys in the book, All Is Dust, where they're using their powers to take apart their weaponry and clean it and reassemble things and turn pages, and he's still using his hands. And they said, "Why are you doing that?" And he made the comment, like, just because we're masters of the warp does not mean we should be, letting go of our old traditions. And he had a thought in his head where he said, if I didn't have my powers, I would be just a Space Marine. And then he chuckles. Just a Space Marine. The audacity of that comment was just unbelievable to him. Because the Space Marine was already as powerful a thing as it could be. He's like, huh, that's a little... Yeah, that's a little... yeah, I don't want to say cocky, but something else. The other word I'm looking for, it was like a little...
He was...
Arrogant?
Did he humble him?
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, he found himself to be a little bit arrogant in that moment. Like, to think that I would just be a Space Marine.
Well, wow. And I think there is a degree of arrogance with Ahriman that, honestly, even, Kharn and Lucius don't have.
I think there's an arrogance with this whole Legion, but definitely he has the most out of all of them.
Oh, yeah. Like, he thinks he can solve every problem.
Mm.
Like, he always thinks that he can figure his way out of it.
Yeah.
And he almost, never does.
Does he fail?
He fails a lot. Like, a lot.
Like, in the hierarchy of people who fail every time, Abaddon used to be the top of the list, and then Ahriman was, second.
Yeah. So Magnus did nothing wrong, but Ahriman always does the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Ahriman always tries to do the wrong thing and just, messes it up in some way.
He tries to do the wrong thing?
Well,
he tries to do the right thing.
Oh, okay.
But even when he does the right thing, if he does succeed, it's at extreme costs to himself and people around him. He's like, I will reach my end goal regardless of the outcome and people around me. That's his thought process.
Like, he's the one who turns his Legion into dust.
Yeah, it's not Magnus's fault. He's the one that did that. And Magnus even told him, do not do this. You're going down a road.
Everyone tells him.
Not.
Can Tzeentch reverse it?
Technically, yes, he could. Tzeentch definitely could reverse it. I mean, Tzeentch did reverse it for a while until it was opportunistic for him to go, all right, well, kind of turn on that little deal, and then suddenly the flesh change went rampant through the Legion again. And all the flesh change was just them turning into Chaos Spawn.
Well, it's actually, Tzeentch doesn't turn on the deal. Magnus does.
Right.
So it's actually, as Magnus is trying to break into the Golden Throne to warn the Emperor, he hits a block he can't get through.
Yes.
And Tzeentch, not appearing as Tzeentch, but it's clearly Tzeentch, appears to Magnus and is like, I will help you with this, but our other deal is done. And Magnus goes, do what you must.
Because he said, I can grant you the power. I can grant you the power to do this. But that's why he said the deal was done, because once Magnus broke through that wall, he didn't really need him anymore.
But in doing so, the deal was that Tzeentch was actually the being that Magnus had thought was holding his Legion together. So then the flesh change started taking over his Legion again.
And if also read the book All Is Dust, Tzeentch appears to Magnus in 3 different occasions as 3 different things. He even lets Magnus think that he is more powerful and kills Tzeentch. He appears as this little snake that turns into a big snake, and then Magnus turns into a bigger Magnus and grabs it and breaks its neck, and he goes, ha, I killed you. And Tzeentch is like, you think you did.
I mean, that's kind of a theme with Magnus, is he always thinks he's more powerful than Tzeentch, and Tzeentch is just like, I control everything about you.
And it was perfect. That's probably why Tzeentch won so quickly, because he's like, you are arrogant enough to think that you are better than me and more powerful than me, that you have full control over the warp. All right, I'm going to play into this hard.
Magnus is the only one of the demon Primarchs who falls to chaos while still being loyal.
Yeah.
He just compromises his way into being a demon Primarch.
Yes. And something else about Ahriman. Notice how every other champion of the Chaos Gods is somewhat mutated. Like Kharn looks like he lives at the gym and is really psychotic.
With one arm?
Yeah. Lucius. Anyway, Typhus is completely rotten. Yeah, it's just getting into Lucius a lot. But from the outside view, Ahriman does look like he has not mutated whatsoever.
Oh, he's not dust.
He's not dust. But he doesn't have a face.
Yeah.
There was another sorcerer that described and said, I have seen the void of endless darkness that lies behind that mask where his face used to be.
Ew.
Yeah. I just,
creepy.
when it was described, I imagined him taking the mask off, and he just has this, like, almost like a black hole.
Is it shaped like a head, or?
I'm not sure.
Have you ever seen like what Vanta black paint does?
Yes.
It like absorbs all light, so it actually looks like something isn't there. I can imagine it's just like his face is that.
Yeah.
Like you look at it and there's nothing.
And I think that is his curse from Tzeentch, because it's like a play on words where you want to seek knowledge. I'm going to give you an endless, bottomless hole that you are trying to fill full of knowledge, and it is never going to be full, which is why he's trying to look for the Black Library. He wants to find a way to solve everything.
Well, in the Black Library, there's clearly the answer to the rubric that he messed up. Like everything. The Black Library will solve everything.
And Tzeentch
just one more tragedy.
Yep. Just one more mistake.
Would Tzeentch betray Ahriman? If Ahriman gets there.
Oh yeah. If it meant,
because they probably will have knowledge of like how to deal with the Chaos Gods. And if Ahriman finds that out.
Well, that's the thing about the Chaos Gods. You can be their greatest champion, but if they can get something better, or it's the means to an end, they'll abandon you. They did it to Horus. They jacked Horus up full of so much energy and was like, cool, we have completed our goals. We don't need you anymore. Click, your powers are gone. We're done. I assume that as soon as Ahriman would gain access to the Black Library and gained a foothold there, Tzeentch should be like, all right, cool. Let's change this up now.
I mean, Tzeentch wants access to the Black
Library.
Yeah. There's so much knowledge in that place that he definitely wants really, really badly.
But how does Ahriman think that? Well, I guess he's not thinking 2 steps ahead, but I could just imagine him going to the Black Library and not being able to exit the Black Library.
That is a possibility.
So what's the point on getting the knowledge if you can't?
I think the problem with Ahriman is he thinks 15 steps ahead, but like 13 of those steps don't make as much sense as he thinks they do. But everyone around him is thinking 75 steps ahead, so it's still not enough.
Also, I don't think he'd be that upset about being trapped in the Black Library, because that's a lot of books to read, and he'd be like captivated for quite a while. He may even go insane because of it.
So is he doing it selfishly?
Completely selfish.
Oh, okay.
Like, he wants all the knowledge to solve the rubric, fix everything, gain ultimate power. I think he even does, like, he doesn't believe that he's really working for Tzeentch. He does think he's only working for his own goals.
I think Ahriman, like, of them all, I think is like the most in denial. Which Magnus also kind of deals with the same issue of like...
Oh, exactly, yeah. They go hand in hand. The both of them think they're just arrogant enough to not, like, give in to Tzeentch. Although, now that Magnus is a demon prince and he's fully given in, Ahriman's like, all right, well, I'm going to do this on my own as a mortal. I'm going to figure this out. And Tzeentch is like, you think so? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Ahriman is definitely the most in denial about his situation.
Yeah.
And I think the struggle with Ahriman is he doesn't think he's arrogant. Because the Thousand Sons are extraordinarily arrogant as a legion.
Oh.
And Ahriman was actually one of the like more grounded ones. That's actually part of the reason why Magnus liked to talk to him. Because Ahriman wasn't the equerry, but Ahriman was the one who had Magnus's ear kind of before the fall.
Yes, he did.
Because Ahriman tended to be a little bit more grounded. He wasn't as lustful of knowledge. He wasn't as, even going back to he still considered himself a warrior. Like, Ahriman pushed himself to be more than just a sorcerer.
Yes.
And because of that, there was more substance to him, and I think Magnus liked that about him. So I don't think Ahriman ever lost that self-vision, though. Ahriman sees himself as this, like, capable, self-assured, just Space Marine doing his thing, and I don't think he realizes the like web of fate that Tzeentch has like woven around him.
Yeah, he doesn't see it, or even if he does see it, he still thinks, like you said, I can get out of this.
Yeah,
I can figure a way out of it. I'm the smart one.
Like, so I think he even thinks if he solves the rubric, he can save his legion from Tzeentch.
Yeah. Random funny tangent about him. Ahzek Ahriman is one of the few Space Marines out there that was actually able to feel like he was drunk without drinking anything, like the Space Wolves with mead. During the Council of Nicaea, during the Council of Nicaea, Magnus got really upset about what was happening in the outcome, to the point where he actually had psychic energy radiating off his body. The plinth he was standing on was starting to melt around his hands. He was really upset, and it hit Ahriman, and he actually was like, oh, damn, and just goes down. Like, he passes out. He wakes up a couple hours later in his lord's chamber, and he goes, "How are you feeling?" I don't know. I feel like I'm drunk. I've never been drunk before. And he's describing it as like lights are hurting. He feels dizzy. He's woozy. He wants to throw up.
He needs a good greasy spoon.
Yeah. And Magnus goes, "I apologize. That was my fault. Apparently I released a little too much energy and it rubbed off on you." He's just like,
drunk off that Magnus energy.
Yeah. Yeah, getting drunk off that chaos juice.
Well, that even reminds me, in the Crimson King, Ahriman takes in one of the shards of Magnus. And he actually sees the universe as Magnus sees it. And it, like, starts to shatter his psyche.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
And it sounds like it's a similar experience for him. Like, it's this, like, lights are too bright. He sees too much of everything. He gets this, like, splitting headache, and he, like, almost starts to, like, pass out and die because he's just, like, perceiving too much reality at one time.
And that's the shard. Oh my goodness. I've only heard of a couple of champions that have, like, read books written by Magnus. Actually, Harkin Worldclaimer, to get the favor of Tzeentch, he read through the tomes of Magnus and lost a bit of his sanity while doing it. I can only imagine what putting a shard in your chest is like. That poor bastard. Oh, wow.
Yeah, Armin had the Book of Magnus in one hand and a shard of Tzeentch inside of him, and it's just like, all right, let's do this. I think Magnus ends up, like, turning it off. He's like, "Oh no, my son, I'm hurting you. I'll just, like, turn the off switch off." And Armin's like, "Oh, thank you. That's great. Thank you."
3 seconds beforehand.
Right.
Oh god. I'm sorry. Click. Are you okay, son? Yes, daddy.
So yeah, Armin is, like, both, like, brother and daddy issues to the max. Because he's, like, always trying to put Magnus back together and always trying to put his legion. He's kind of like the mother hen of the, like, Chaos Champions, where he's just like, if I just do all the things, everyone will be okay.
And
he's very passive aggressive. Like, if only I get help around here.
No, he is. He absolutely is. And he's very passive aggressive about it. And all the other sorcerers are like, you go to hell for what you did. Like, what was it? When the book first came out for the Thousand Sons, like, the first ever codex they made, there was that little short that GW made, and it was Ahriman returning to Prospero, because for the longest time when he did the rubric, he was actually in exile. If you look at the old codexes, his name is Ahriman, Exile of the Thousand Sons. You actually had to pay a premium to add him to an army that had rubric marines because they hated him so much. Yeah. So he goes to
an extra 50 points because we don't want him around.
So he goes to Prospero, and he said the whole thing. He says, "Brothers, the space around Fenris seized with warp fire. This is our time. It is our opportunity to strike now." And they just go, "Traitor! Did you think that we would forget Ahriman? Did you believe we would forgive your sins of what you did to us?" And then Daddy shows up and goes, "Enough. You're all my sons, and you're all born of my blood. Some of you have remained faithful. Others," side glance at Ahriman, "wayward and treacherous throughout the generations, walking their own path. But the crimes of your past mean nothing, and you've all come back here together. This is a chance for us to reforge the Legion as one. become stronger than we ever have, and strike back against the wolves for what they did to us so many years ago. So that's why in the new codex, he is now Ahriman,
back on
sorcerer of the Thousand Suns, and he's their like chief dude because he was finally able to come back. Magnus rejoins, and they're one group again. But the other sorcerers still hate him.
Can we just exile him again?
They want to. They probably do. But Daddy is protecting him now.
Okay, I just want to interrupt for a second. That is the exact same plot line as Lionel Johnson coming back with the Fallen.
Right?
It's the same thing.
Plot line. The exact same thing.
Someone called him traitor?
God.
Well, yeah, people called him traitor. The Legion split in half. There was the Fallen and the Dark Angels. When he comes back, he brings the Fallen back into the fold. And you're like, huh. Okay. I guess we're all friends again. Also, if anybody noticed, there's new Dark Angel models out that are wearing black armor and look just like knights, and they're pretty much they're like Blade Guard veterans, but for the Dark Angels. So those are the Fallen, his closest companions, the people that they were hunting for so long.
Changes sides.
I can imagine
how the Fallen chaos.
Well, that's the thing. Some of them were, some of them weren't. Some of the Fallen were just trying to survive, and others were actually seeking out chaos, and Lion gave them the option. If they were mutated or they didn't want to follow him, he killed them. And if they did, he let them back in. I'm just imagining the mental mind effery that the Dark Angels went through when our Primarch has returned. He's surrounded by the Fallen. You want to let them back into the Legion?
You spent 10,000 years hunting these guys down, and then your like father comes back and is just like, "Sup, guys? Got the crew back together."
Every single Marine just drops their gun. Like, what's happening?
Every captain is thinking back to like every fight and planet they lost because they heard a rumor of a single Fallen and picked up the whole chapter to hunt them down. And it's just like, wait a second.
Yep. Every innocent person they've killed, everything that they've done, they were just like, oh, we're the bad guys.
Are we the bad guys?
So yes, everybody out there that was a Dark Angel player for the past 5 to 10 years, yes, you were the bad guys. It's your fault.
Ouch.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a nice equivalency to Ahriman's story, because Ahriman doesn't think he's the bad guy, but he often is.
Yeah. Moving on.
The champion of Nurgle.
Our filthy friend. Our hive of diseases and bugs.
Is he goo on the inside like a Plague Marine?
From what
Are Plague Marines goo?
Well,
yeah, they're just kind of like sludgy, gooey, gummy bear bodies.
There's varieties. There's lots.
I like to think of them as just gummy bears wearing armor.
Isn't Typhus just flies?
Well, what I do know is that when he changed, Typhus's body was fused to his armor. So him and his armor are one. They are one thing. And a large portion of his body was hollowed out from the inside so that the Destroyer Hive, all those flies, can live inside of his body. So I don't know how, out of all of them, I think he is probably the closest thing to being a demon from all 4 champions with how much he's been corrupted. Because, if any of these guys, Typhus was the one that just jumped into the deep end of chaos immediately right off the bat. He's like, I am all about Nurgle. I am a Nurgle fanboy. Nurgle, hell yeah. Papa Gap tattooed on his chest, everything. Because he had aspirations of being a champion of Nurgle long before the Heresy, long before the Great Crusade. His first thoughts of this was during Mortarion living on Barbarous, when they had their little bit of a war with the overlords of the planet. Because he thought, Typhus was the one that made the suggestion to Mortarion, hey, you see these weird, messed up, mutated monsters that the overlords keep using? We can make those too. Why don't we just, get some of the human population and turn them into our own, and we'll have them attack? Mortarian's like, no, we're not going to do that. Typhus, well, why not? Because we're supposed to protect these people. Well, you and I aren't exactly human, so what have they done for us? We should just use them. That's what they're there for. They're a tool. So right off the bat, Typhus was already showing signs of, evil. When they captured one of the warlords and brought them to Mortarion, at first Mortarion was really upset because he had told him, I wanted you to kill him. Why is he standing here in front of me still alive? You told me he was dead. And he said, no, we can learn from them. We can learn how to control these powers. Look at what they have at their disposal. The Overlord begged and pleaded for Typhus to, show, I can tell you, I can teach you, I can show you all sorts of things. I can teach you the gifts and the secrets of Nergaleth, because around that time, that's what they referred to Nurgle was Nergaleth, which is one of his names. Typhus didn't listen. He cut the guy's throat from his throat down to his stomach and watched the contents of his body spill on the floor. And he stood there and watched it because it started to writhe and rot and create fungus. And he was very intrigued by it, especially by the virility and the strength that these guys had, being able to take a lot of damage and just shrug it off. He was, always interested. And Typhus isn't fully human. His backstory on Barbarous was, and he told this to Mortarion, I'm not one of them. My mother, the sweet woman that she was, unfortunately had a really pretty face. And one of the overlords took a liking to her. And I was born out of that. The people in my hometown were so afraid. They strangled my mother in front of me, and they tried to drown me in the river. Only I unleashed something upon them, and then they left me alone because they were afraid of me. Typhus, before that, had already had access to some form of psychic powers because he was... there's no actual real lore as to what the Overlords are. They were either an alien race or once human. Whatever they were Nurgle worshippers. So Typhus was a half human, half something else with the warp embedded in his body, which made him psychically intuned. And he used that power. And he didn't understand why Mortarion didn't want to use tools and weapons at his disposal where he could destroy his enemies. Mortarion's whole idea was, I'm going to do this on my own, my way, without anybody else's help, and I'm not going to use the weapons of my enemies. And Typhus never understood that. So later, during the heresy, before the heresy, Typhus was very quick to, get cozy with the word bearers, get cozy with Erebus, start the lodges.
Who gets close to Erebus?
Yeah. Typhus was one of the first, pseudo-champions of Chaos to really, really dig into the lodges and start that whole mess within the Legion. And then, during the whole Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy, he slowly planned things out on how he was going to make this happen. He wanted to be a champion of Nurgle. He wanted to gain those powers that the Overlords had a long time ago. He actually craved it. So he set Mortarion and the Legion up. Completely set them up. He had found a way to bring them into Nurgle's realm through the warp. But how is I going to do this? Well, I'm going to kill all the astropaths on the ship, so we can't navigate through the warp. With no psychers to navigate, what are we going to do? Well, Dad, I'm a psyker. Now, I know you hate psychers. You don't want us in our Legion. But as it is right now, I'm the only one that can steer us through the warp to a safe place.
Wow, Typhus.
That's why the novel's called The Buried Dagger, because he buried a knife in Mortarion's back. Just completely betrayed him and the Legion. So when this all finally came to fruition, I believe Typhus was still performing a ritual. Mortarion sliced him through his body with his scythe, just like he did to Garrow. And he thought Typhus was dead. But around this time, Typhus had already pretty well joined Nurgle as a champion. He was described during the whole book as features becoming very gaunt, skin becoming pale and transparent. You could see his veins turning blue and black. There was a constant black goo dripping from his nose that he would wipe off really quickly whenever Mortarion was around so that he wouldn't notice. And then eventually, when this whole confrontation happened, Typhus tore himself off of Mortarion's scythe, and he actually went toe-to-toe with the Primarch for a short time. Because even though the Primarch had all this power, Typhus was embodied with Nurgle's gifts that made him super resilient. So he was shrugging off attacks that, like, Mortarion should have been able to just strike him down. His intestines are hanging out of his stomach on the deck, trailing behind. Mortarion's just like, what have you become? What is this? I have shown us the way, Father, and I'll show you where this path is going to lead us. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because this whole time, his name was never Typhus. His name was Callus Typhon. Prior to this, there was a Death Guard legionary that was brought back as a possessed or a demon prince or a demon of some sort. And he had given Mortarion some information and help along the way. At this point, Mortarion had finally given in and brought this monster into the fight with him to fight Typhus. And at the last moments of the fight, when this creature called the Destroyer grabbed onto Callus, he looked back at Mortarion and said, I serve more masters than you, Lord of the Death God. Looks down to Callus. Do you give in to Nurgle? Typhus said yes, and he smiled, and this cloud of flies just comes out of the guy's mouth and into Typhus, and Typhon. They fuse together. This demonic entity and Typhon fused together to create the new being known as Typhus. And that's where he came from. After which, he led the armies of the Death Guard with Mortarion, but as we can all see, Mortarion looks very different from his brother Primarchs. If you look at the other three, Angron, Magnus, and Fulgrim, they've all given into the Chaos God that they worship fully because of how the level of their transformation. Angron, he's basically a bloodthirster. Magnus, giant turkey man. Fulgrim, snake with 4 arms and looks gorgeous half the time and ugly the other half the time.
Well, he's gorgeous all of the time.
Yeah, it shifts. There's a book. You read it, you'll see. He's like, ooh, anyway. What was I? Mortarion, if you look at him, he hasn't changed much. Yes, he's got big wings. Yes, he's got bigger. Yes, his body's covered in pox and gnarly stuff. But that's pretty much it. Even his face.
He doesn't have like any tentacles or any wounds, open wounds.
Exactly.
He's got no belly mouth.
Exactly. His grill is attached to his face and it's now like, it is a part of my face now. Pretty much that's what he's got going on. But as for heavy duty mutation,
compared to the Plague Marines.
Yeah, because he's still resisting Nurgle. He still doesn't fully want to give in to the Chaos God, and Typhus sees that. And there's a reason why they're not really on the same page. Typhus gave in to Nurgle fully. Mortarion did not. And Typhus actually hates his dad for that. Mm-hmm. He hates Mortarion for not giving in to Nurgle, and he's even said to him, you have not given in to the Plague Father and accepted his gifts as I have. If you would just give in and accept his love, then perhaps you and I could could find recompense or something where they could we could get along again. But until then, no, we will not. That's why Typhus goes across the galaxy with his own ship known as the Terminus Est, which is Latin for the end. And
his poxwalkers.
Yep, and he rages his own wars away from Mortarion. They are seeing them on the battlefield together is a very rare sight because they dislike each other so much. Mortarion will give him orders, and Typhus will be like, "Go F yourself, Dad."
So is Typhus living his best life? Is he happy now that what?
Well, no, he wants. He's
wants
not
more.
He's not happy. He's happy, but think about it. You're a follower of Nurgle, and your dad, the one you love the most, isn't a full follower of Nurgle. It'd be like, it's like a really hardcore religious guy wanting to get someone that he knows and loves into the religion, but they're just dipping their toes kind of in. They're not fully giving in.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants Mortarion to give in to Nurgle's love and his affections and his gifts so that he and Typhus can see each other on the same level and be like, look, you see? This is why I'm doing this. Because Typhus is always going to think him and Mortarion are never going to see eye to eye because he's still doing the same thing he's always done. You are not using all the tools at your disposal to do the things you need to do. You have psychic powers, you have unbelievable fortitude, you have gifts given to you from the Plague Father, and you will not use them. Why?
I have a quick question. Okay, so he is born the way he is. He's essentially Nurgle's son.
To a point, yeah.
How does he become a space marine?
So Callus at the time was at the proper age to still become.
But did they not obviously he has some chaos in him. Was there no librarian or
not
sorcerer?
I didn't know about chaos. That was part of the Emperor's lie.
Yeah. When they when they found Callus, he just looks like, okay, he's a slightly larger, tougher looking dude who can use psychic powers. This is good.
Was it only the Emperor that knew about chaos?
Only the Emperor knew about chaos. Although,
who was the first one to discover chaos?
Well,
the Corphaeron and
actually, I'm going to backtrack a little bit on that one. I don't think we're correct on that. I don't think it's not that they didn't know about chaos, but they didn't know what it could do or what it was capable of.
Or how to detect it.
Yeah, because there's a conversation in, I believe, the first or second book, either Horus Rising or False Gods, where Gavial Loken and Horus Lupercal are having a conversation. And Horus Lupercal actually does describe the warp and chaos. And there are entities that live within that realm. So they do know something. They know that there are things.
It's like knowing heaven and hell.
I think they think it's they think it's they're like animals. It's there's deer and bears in there. They don't think that they're a guided intelligence. They don't know the chaos gods are actual consciousness.
Exactly, because they have had instances where they have fought some form of demon before. Actually, Mortarion was one of the people that has fought them during the trial of Magnus or the Council of Nicaea. When he steps up to the plate and talks about why he thinks psychic powers are bad, he describes a war where they fought against a human race that somehow had the power to summon these crazy-ass creatures that rode atop of giant monsters and charged at them into battle. And he was like, these are the powers that are at our enemy's disposal, and we're using them. This is not right. It's evil. We shouldn't be doing this. So they knew something about the warp. They just didn't know they knew probably about 10% about what it could do, whereas the Emperor knew 110% of what the warp was capable of.
Yeah. They wouldn't have thought that there was chaos gods and that there was direction and planning and thought. It'd be if you were going for a walk in the woods and somebody's like, oh yeah, don't go off the path because, we saw a grizzly bear out there last week, and you'd be like, oh, okay, then I'll make sure I stay on the path. That was their level of understanding of the dangers of the warp.
That's 100%.
Were they fighting entities from the warp or fighting chaos in general?
There were some instances where they, not chaos in general, but they were definitely fighting entities.
So what were their main enemies?
Mainly were different types of humans and alien races.
And Xenos, yeah.
A lot of them probably thought that these were just a Xenos thing. Some kind of alien creature.
Meanwhile, the Primarchs are made out of chaos.
Yeah, one of the early heresy novels describes them more as a Xenos,
yeah,
that's what they perceive it. I think it might even be the Sons of Horus too that encounter a demon during a warp translation.
They do,
and they're just oh, what is this ephemeral Xenos nonsense?
Well, it was during the what was that battle they had? It was during the first battle of the first book. Gavio Loken has this interaction with a squad, Squad Jubal. And the captain of the squad is named Xavier Jubal, who goes missing at one point. They find Jubal, and he's kind of gone a little bit crazy. He keeps saying, like, Samus is here. Samus is the one right beside you. He will gnaw your bones and chew on your life. Look out, Samus is here. And he starts attacking people, and they kill Jubal. But then he comes back. And the way it's described, he's taken over by a demon of Nurgle. His body bloats to a huge size. His nails grow long and curled. Pox grow on his body. There's a long, writhing tongue and a mouth of fangs. And he's like, look out, Samus is here. So they fight him, they kill him, they burn his entire body, and when he has that conversation with Horus, that's when he brings up, he's like, he was infected by something within the warp. And he goes, that's when he starts talking to Gaviel about it and tells him, like, the warp is something we don't know a lot about. There are things out there, and men have succumbed to them sometimes. Like, it can make a man go crazy. Have you not seen some of the people, like the humans on our ship, what happens to them when they are exposed to the warp? So yeah, you're right. They don't know a lot about it. It's a lot of speculation on what these things are, and they're just making average guesses on what they know, which isn't very much.
And like they know, like they know what the Elder are. They know what like psychic powers are. So they are aware that there is like a connection between psychic powers and aliens.
Yes.
As well. So yeah.
Yep. Emperor really dropped the ball on that one.
Well, you know, a lot of things could have been avoided if the Emperor just like understood how people
It seems to be the root of most problems.
If the Emperor was just a better dad and drove them to soccer practice, it would have been fine.
And then pick them up at least.
Yeah, at least pick them up.
Should have taken better care of them Primarch babies.
All right, guys, we're going home. Oh, damn it, where's Korax? Just in the rain of the field.
You know, I think Typhus is interesting because he isn't like. He does have daddy issues because they all have daddy issues, but his is more like you said, he was striving to be a champion of chaos. The other three kind of just end up there.
Yeah, they all do. They all
like none of them are trying.
No, he's been trying since like day one.
He was this fanboy.
Oh yeah, well he's always like Typhus is
Nurgle Keeners.
Yeah,
yeah. I need to see him with a poster of Nurgle on his wall.
Typhus has always like been seeking power. He's always seeking power and strength. It was what was it? It was a combination of Typhus, Mortarion, and Abaddon giving Mortarion a dark item called the Hand of Darkness, which is what Mortarion used to create the Poxwalker virus, which then Typhus was able to carry in his body that the flies would infect people with.
Gross. Nurgle is gross.
Oh yeah. I used to love that weapon. The artifact actually was in the game, the Hand of Darkness. It was a chaos weapon. You had to give up all of your attacks to use it. You got one attack. But if you hit, you didn't need to wound because it was instant death. Whatever toxin came out of that gauntlet, that glove, was so potent that all you had to do was touch somebody and their body would react the same way as a virus bomb from the Imperium would. Every bit of biomass on your body melts away into a gray, greenish sludge, and fumes come off afterwards.
So what you're saying is Nurgle has the ability to defeat the Tyranids and just like can't be bothered.
Yes, he did. He could. If Nurgle wanted to create the ultimate virus to infect the Tyranids and kill them off, he absolutely could. The only problem is he's like, well, if I do that, I get nothing for it because they're not individual beings; they're one mind. So I'm gonna do all this work to kill one thing.
Would they not adapt to it?
It depends. They probably could, but I feel like Nurgle. Well, one, Nurgle's diseases are very different. And two, I don't think they could adapt to it that quickly because it's not like a normal disease. It's a warp-borne disease. Mm-hmm. If they could, it's going to be hard. And Nurgle could just alter the disease, change it up. Like I'm going to add this to it. Well, now your eyes bleed. Okay, well, now your joints start to get hard and seize up. All right, well, now your fluids turn to solids and your solids turn to fluids. How you like that?
Ooh.
Yeah, how you like me now, baby? When you actually
Gross.
read some of the, like, in every codex with spells and artifacts, they have a little blurb of lore across top. If you actually read the Nurgle ones, they're pretty awful what they do.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's one where the skin peels off your body, but it turns, like, hard as rock, and it does something else. Like, it starts to, like, slice your body open while it's peeling off you. It's weird. It's so weird.
Everyone's gonna go open up a book to find this.
I'm tempted to do it myself. Just read some of them. They're freaking great.
This is why, in a recent episode, I had explained to Kaylee that Nurgle was not nice. And it's because Nurgle does terrible, awful, terrible things to people. Like, at least, like, Kharn just wants you dead.
Yeah. Well,
as
like,
quickly as possible.
If you look at, like, level of mutation for each of the gods and their followers, you got, like, least to greatest amount, you got Kharn at the top, almost no mutations. You got Slaanesh with, a few more. This is more like of self-augmentation.
Yeah.
And then in my opinion, it's a hard tie for Tzeentch and Nurgle because they both make their followers so just effed doesn't even describe what they do. I don't think I have a word.
Creativity.
It's definitely creative. It's definitely creative. I don't think there's a word that describes what they do to their followers.
But like, I'm going to ascend to Tzeentch's true power, and then he's turned into like a half crocodile, half chicken, and you're like,
this is me now.
Well, there's those new exalted sorcerers that they made for the Thousand Suns line, and look, there's one. It floats in the air. It's got a bird face. It has robotic bird feet. It's got 4 arms and tentacles coming out of one side. And I don't know. I find it unsettling. Every time I see that model, I feel very just icky and unsettled by the way it looks. Because it's like this thing it's avian, but it's octopusy, and he's floating, but he's on a disc at the same time while he's floating. There's extra arms. Is that an eyeball on his knee? Yeah. Oh, jeez.
You just gotta look at the Magnus model and be like, Tzeentch is into some weird stuff.
Yeah. At least when you look at the Death Guard, everyone's smiling. Even their stomachs are smiling.
Just big grins all around.
All right.
Okay, we saved the best for last.
The best.
I don't want to let this go too long, but we got to talk about my boy.
Your boy.
My man.
Number 1 under the sun. Favorite.
The eternal, the never dying. The guy who proved that Necrons have feelings, actually. Lucius the Eternal.
Oh, good old Lucius. And here we go. Let's dive into this bag of tricks. So, where to begin with Lucius?
Where does he come from?
Well,
I think the thing to talk about most is actually Lucius's humanity. Because of the champions, he's probably like the most messed up in the end. But his trigger is actually that he realizes the curse of what being an Astartes is. Yep. Like, he starts off as like a kind of arrogant, cocky swordsman who's like really concerned with his martial prowess. But he's also like, he falls in love with someone and like realizes like through like art and culture what the Emperor has taken. Like, I have little notes beside each of these, and Lucius he has granddaddy issues. Him and Fulgrim are pretty like okay.
Yeah, they're tight.
But like, he has beef with the Emperor about like what was done to him. And like, that's what kind of triggers the descent, is his realization of the humanity that was stolen from him.
Yeah.
So he fell in love with a woman, like a human?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He fell in love with a remembrancer on the ship.
Something Freighty? I can't remember her first name.
I can't remember her name off the top of my head, no.
This is that lady that was making a portrait with her own blood.
Nurgle.
Wasn't it?
I think by the end of it, yeah. It got pretty depraved by the end of it. Because I think Lucius finishes it with her blood.
Yeah.
In like during the Meraviglia.
That's the word I was looking for, the Meraviglia. Yeah, she wrote that.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oof.
Yeah.
She dead?
Lucius kills her.
No. She was transformed into a demonette.
That's right, yeah. But
Yeah.
Lucius does kill her, and that's also part of his, like, descent to chaos.
Yeah, that whole ritual sequence of the Meraviglia was just that... Oh, God, that was awful. Yeah. He basically wrote a play, or a play slash...
It was like a ballet.
Yeah. But,
like a performance.
Yeah, but there was knives and blood and piss and shit and all sorts of other things that were combined into this. People were being killed. Noise Marines were taking up instruments. Like it was like the worst. It
was the concert of the millennium, we'll say.
Yeah, concert of the millennium. And the final thing was
invite only.
Yes, was her being risen up from the deck into the air, hit with a whole bunch of psychic energy, and she slammed back down. It was just a demonette just in her place.
Still with her memories?
That I don't know. I don't remember that part. I think I stopped reading after that. It was really graphic.
So Lucius wanted nothing to do with her once she was a demonette?
Yeah, this also happens like in the third book of the heresy. Like the Emperor's children descend real hard, real fast.
Yeah. So once you read the book, I think it's Fulgrim, you get a very clear picture of what's going on that ship.
The Meraviglia, it's like 20 pages. It's like the setup and like build up and like they like it's described throughout over like a few pages, like what actually transpires.
And this was on the ship?
This was on the ship.
Oh yeah,
this
was on like Fulgrim's flagship.
Like
this was planned and
oh yeah. This is the level of what they're at.
What?
So before all craziness, when you arrive on the ship, Fulgrim would come walking out in full armor, fully bedecked, beautiful, lovely, Lucius at his side, other captains over there, and his men marching behind him in lockstep and ready to go. Presentation. We are perfect. Now, well, Perturabo got a little look at that. When he went onto the ship, he was presented with a parade of people dancing, cutting themselves, cutting others. I think it was like flags and stuff made of skin. There was pheromones and scent going everywhere. And when it came to Fulgrim coming out, he was carried on. He was being carried on a plinth.
What?
Or not a plinth. But what are those? Like, you know those things that like the bearers will carry you out on? A palanquin. He was on a He was on a palanquin.
What?
Surrounded by people having sex. Him completely stripped to the waist down, with little boys and girls rubbing oil on his body while while people were playing instruments as he was brought out to. This is how he just said hello to his brother. First meeting after a while. Hey bro, what's up? Check me out.
As like a loyalist?
This was like during the heresy, like just as they had turned traitor.
Welcome to my ship. Oh my.
Like I think that's actually the one where Perturabo was being convinced to join the heresy too. Like Perturabo was
this is supposed to compel me to join.
Yeah, he was trying to be convinced, and even Perturabo's watching the symphony. He's just irritated by it. He's like, "What is happening? What is this madness? What?"
Of course, Perturabo's gonna say no.
Yeah, yeah. He just did like what was it? Basically, you know, when you go to a party and you go, "I'll just have a little drink. Just give me a little drink," and you get this little tiny sip. Perturabo asked for a little drink, and Fulgrim walked over the whole bottle and said, "Drink, bitch," and just fucking poured it down his throat.
Okay, I know we were talking about TV shows earlier in this podcast. Now that you talked about that, Emperor's Children / Lucius, whatever, that's definitely a reality show to the max.
Oh,
it is. It absolutely is. There's something else. And Lucius is just... Man.
Like, Lucius isn't even really... I think he is technically a captain.
He
is.
I
don't even think he really, like... He technically has soldiers that he generally ignores because they aren't good enough for him.
He does get to that point.
But he isn't, like, in the hierarchy of the Emperor's children, he isn't actually that high ranking, but Fulgrim just like loves him. He's like kind of this like pet for Fulgrim. Fulgrim like finds him both annoying and amusing simultaneously.
Yes, absolutely.
There's no one
which
like
also kind of like
Lucius.
chafes. Yeah, because like everyone else doesn't like Lucius.
But there was something else about Lucius that Fulgrim liked. Lucius was the one who figured out that one, Fulgrim was being possessed, and two, when they captured what they thought was possessed Fulgrim and had him on Fabius's table, and they're cutting into him and jamming things up inside of him, trying to get the demon to come out, Lucius was the one that realized immediately, oh, he's not possessed. This is actually Fulgrim. Oh, what are we doing? And as he bursts off the table and smacks a bunch of his guys, Lucius just goes down on one knee. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ, what have we done? I'm sorry, Dad.
I mean, even that whole exchange is like super messed up because it's basically just like Fulgrim just like, actually I'm not possessed anymore.
Yeah.
Like they don't really show him not like defeating the demon.
He was letting them do it. He was letting them do it to him on the table, like all the knives and cutting and stuff.
Yeah.
Like he's even like, oh, you need to go just a little bit further. Just a little more. That's not quite hitting the right spot. And they're like actually like just
chopping
like any
him up.
Yeah, like any like freaking Taken movie or Hollywood crazy thing where someone's being tortured. They were doing that, but he was enjoying it. And Lucius realized he's letting us do this. This is Fulgrim. It's not a possessed. Like he could break out at any point in time. He's letting us do this to him.
He's loving it.
Oh no. Oh no. And he was the one that suggested that they capture him. Because I remember Lucius was being surrounded by a whole bunch of other captains, and they're pulling out all these weird array of weapons like brass knuckles, whips, and just crazy stuff. But he convinced them there's something wrong with Dad. He's not right. We just saw our dad put his hand up to a tank and turn everybody inside of it into gigantic heaving mounds of flesh and teeth. When has he ever been able to do that? Something is wrong. Because that was the first indication. Fulgrim had no psychic powers whatsoever, and suddenly, boom, psychic powers. And really potent psychic powers.
Does Lucius have psychic powers?
None whatsoever.
No.
Lucius is all about the blade. Where, like, even with, like...
He's got a whip. He's got a little whippy.
Now he does. For a while there, he was pretty obsessed with dual wielding. He was actually chastised by Eidolon for using a dual blade because he had grabbed a claw from an alien and said, why would you use a Xenos tool? Like, you should be more... What was it? What did he say? It was based on, like, you should know better than that. You shouldn't be doing that. But Lucius has always been a dual wielder. He likes to wield two blades. And when it comes to, like, the decadence of the Emperor's children, how they all dive into something of, like, excess, his is the excess of combat. His main goal, Lucius's number one goal, is to be the greatest duelist of all time and have no equal on the battlefield. And he's almost kind of reached that now. Like, he's not big into a lot of other things, but that's the number one thing. Like, when it comes to a fight, he's like, let's cross blades, baby.
Yeah. No, he's definitely because even with Slaanesh, part of it is, like, you can't actually be insane and worship Slaanesh.
No.
Because there's a degree, you have to be sane, you have to be conscious of the depravity you're doing.
You still need to be...
Like, that's part of, like, aware. You have to know that you're debauched. You have to know you've fallen.
If you're insane...
So there's a degree of...
If you're insane, you can't enjoy all these sensations that are present to you. So, yeah, you have to stay sane. So we're going to give you more drugs to keep all those chemicals in balance so you feel everything. It's like giving someone a gigantic shot of adrenaline before you start to torture them. They're going to stay awake and they can feel everything. So that's what Slaanesh is all about. Like, I want you to feel every single thing. You can't be crazy.
So, like, there's a degree of, like, just raw reality that Lucius has that the other three do not. Like, Lucius is perfectly aware that he's super messed up and, like, knows how far he's fallen. And that's part of why, like, I started this with, like, Lucius's original flaw is that he realized what had been taken from him, and his whole thing is just trying to feel human.
Yeah. He's also...
And he doesn't know how.
he's also perpetually like upset for the fact that he has lost and he has been killed. Like his gift was that armor from Slaanesh to keep bringing him back to life over and over again when somebody killed him. But someone did manage to kill Lucius and actually kill him and not bring him back. And Slaanesh still brought him back anyway. And even there's a short novel out there where Lucius is kind of just like roaming around, trying to find somebody else to fight who's a good champion and wondering why am I back? Why did I come back? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I lost. Finds this champion, fights him. Turns out he's another Thousand Sun member named nope, it's escaping me. But he's a Thousand Suns member that actually trained himself to use swords. He preferred martial combat over the sorcery and spellcasting. They had a battle. It went back and forth, and when Lucius was about to kill him, his blade was stopped a couple inches away from this guy's throat. And he scoffs, like, sorcery, backhands the guy and starts chastising him, like, you would use sorcery in our duel like a coward? And you hear, no, that was me. He turns around and he sees standing before him Ahzek Ahriman. And he's like, oh, a new challenger? No. I have plans for him. And for you. And there is a book that I started to read recently, where Abaddon, Ahzek Ahriman, Lucius the Eternal, and this other guy are all working together to find something called what do they call it? They found some kind of alien tech that they could speak to. I can't remember. It was just such a while ago. But yeah, Lucius was working with Abaddon for a short portion of time there.
I think Lucius is a member of Abaddon's like
inner circle.
Council.
He is.
Yeah. Because again, Lucius is like aware enough to still work with others. Like, it's very, like, Kharn, you kind of have to just point in a direction. Ahriman, you have to, like, get him to think it's his idea. Like, Typhus kind of does what he wants. Lucius, you can be like, hey.
I wouldn't say that about Kharn because of all the stuff that we talked about previously. You know what? You can point him in a direction, he'll get the job done. But Kharn is still capable of, like, plotting and thought and scheming. And I don't even think he's affected by the nails like everybody else is anymore. Like,
interesting.
He doesn't twitch. He doesn't have those spasms anymore. He acts very calm and calculated. And honestly, I think him and Lucius are almost on par with knowing exactly what they are, what they're capable of, and what they need to do. Like, would a raving maniac be able to get to the two guys he needs to kill in the same place at the same time, have them fight a war where both of their forces are decimated, and then bring them into a conflict where they're both going to challenge each other? One guy challenges him to a fight. The other guy wants Kharn to fight for him. He walks off, waits for them to come back and get ready to fight each other, and then steps in and goes, I'll be your champion. Wins the fight and then kills the both of them. He planned that entire thing down to the letter. They're both very the both of them, Kharn and Lucius, are on par with being conniving little thieves that will plan something out too, like, you won't even see it coming.
That's fair. Yeah.
So who would be the champion of all the champions?
Abaddon.
No, I mean amongst these four, though.
Amongst these four, and well, I'm going to be biased. In my opinion, it's Kharn. Just because, like, when you...
But if he kills Lucius, would he not enjoy killing Lucius?
I think
Lucius...
He would definitely enjoy it to a point.
Wait, could Kharn...
But you only have to enjoy it ever so slightly.
But then again, he might not. He may just look at it as...
But he's like, I got the skull. That is enjoying the kill.
It's not enjoyment. It's pride. You have to have pride in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you feel any satisfaction or pride,
okay, so yeah, he takes the skull.
Killed Lucius, I think Kharn turns into Lucius.
I think, like, on the other hand, I don't think he'd be able to, only because to Kharn, it's a skull. He doesn't revere them. In every book I've listened to on him and read about him, He kills.
He did
and
carry
keeps
those
moving.
8 skulls of the council.
That was for a reason. He'd offered those skulls to Kharn. So the only reason he was taking those was to give those to Kharn as an offering. So they were
so it's like currency.
Pile. Yeah, kind of like currency. But he's so single-minded. I think if it came down to it, they were fighting, he would slice Lucius's head off and move on to the next target.
If Kharn said, go kill Lucius, he'd go, okay.
Yeah.
But he would have pride of finishing the job.
I don't think he would have pride. I think just like, Kharn wants me to kill you, I'm going to kill you. And that's it.
It would also be a very difficult fight, though. Like, I don't think Kharn would just show up and, like...
It lasts, 8 days and 8 hours.
It would be brutal. Because, like...
Wage your bets now.
One of my favorite quotes on Kharn is from Trials of Azrael. Azrael's fighting Kharn, and it's not a monologue, but it's describing them back and forth. And the narrator describes Kharn as... Azrael had heard of Kharn the Betrayer. The Betrayer was known throughout the galaxy. He had traveled to every corner of the galaxy, a trail of corpses in his wake, and countless skulls claimed for the throne of Kharn. Many were those who thought Kharn beaten, but just as many were those who prematurely celebrated victory over the World Eater's death. The more battered and bloody he became, the greater his rage. The greater his rage, the more battered and bloody his enemies became. And in this sequence of the fight, you can even see the switch. Kharn goes from a monster just trying to attack Azrael to this calculated master bladesman where he's like faking Azrael out with an overhand strike and then coming down and catching him across the knee and doing all these different maneuvers that Lucius would do. Parrying, dodging, catching the weapons and punching him in the face to get him off guard. Like, I think, like, if you wanted to see a good fight, Kharn versus Lucius would just be like, oh!
That would be like a Primarch level fight, but without the Primarch level scale.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because, like, Lucius, when he's, like, hopped up on his combat drugs, is actually, like, almost too fast to see.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he will move quick enough that your eye can't keep up with him. So, like, Kharn going full calculated fury versus, like, Lucius's, like, pure, prideful, drug-infused, like, game of like, dueling. It would be... You know what? Hopefully, if there's an, this whole Amazon thing, maybe they'll do it someday. They'll have a gentle competition between the two of them.
I can see it now. Lucius is dipping, diving, ducking through. He's trying to stab Kharn, and he goes in, stabs him right through, laughs, but then realizes Kharn takes the hit to get him close and go, "I've got you now, little worm." Grabs Lucius by the face, chucks him off. The sword's in his chest. He snaps that sucker off and just goes right after him.
Is Fulgrim in the crowd?
Fulgrim's Fulgrim
you want to watch.
Fingers going, yes, queen, yes, keep going.
Is Angron there?
Angron? Oh, Angron.
He better be there.
Angron's doing other stuff.
Aw, bad dad.
I'm picturing, like, Kharn goes in for the death kill. He's got his axe, like, hoisted up, and he's just, like, goes in to kill Lucius, and all you see is Lucius, like, whip the whip around, and it, like, coils up his arm, and he can't move the axe.
Oh, yes.
And then, like, you see that, like,
the wrist.
Yeah, the silent moment where they both realize that they are both caught, and neither of them can actually move because, like, Lucius is holding onto the whip and holding the arm back.
Oh god.
Yeah.
I'd love to see
it would be a beautiful, like, a choreograph. Oh.
The full episode would just be this fight scene.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I think that right there, that would be the fight that would make Kharn take pride and Lucius could take him. Mm-hmm. If it's a one-on-one fight in the middle of an arena with people watching and there's stakes on it,
the roar of the crowd, the butcher's nails kick in.
He is going to take pride in that skull. On the battlefield, not a chance. He's going to cut Lucius down and keep going because the battle's still raging. But a one-on-one confrontation, no. He's gonna. I
mean, Lucius also is known to just kill everyone around a champion, though, just to have those duels.
Yep.
So
he likes to
he'd
make
be like,
sure.
oh, yeah. He likes to. If he's like, oh, this person has some martial prowess, he will like kill all of their allies so that he can have the one-on-one, because he doesn't want to be like, he doesn't want to ruin it by somebody like shooting one of them in the side or something.
Whereas Kharn, he'll just go right to the center and find you.
Could Kharn bring him back to life if Lucius did kill him?
I mean, he has been brought back by Kharn before. There's been a couple times where there's a champion in Age of Sigmar that when he's surrounded by blood, he pops back up. Kharn has done the same thing. In 2 different occurrences after the Horus Heresy, he was covered in blood by something, and he just sat up, Undertaker style.
Kharn is not going to let his champion be killed by the champion of Slaanesh.
No.
And then become,
not. Yeah. He would never let that happen.
It's just, no.
Even like whatever magic Slaanesh is using to make this happen, Kharn would be like, no, blessing of the Blood God, immune to magic powers. You can just go straight to hell, Slaanesh.
So when you become Lucius, are you fully Lucius, or do you still have some of your...
It takes weeks.
Yes, so this is how it happens. There's an incident where Lucius is in a duel on the planet that Fulgrim controls with the other Emperor's children, and it's literally just like a spectacle for Fulgrim to watch. He gets into the arena and he's fighting people. He kills a bunch of guys. But he comes against one captain. I could not remember his name to save my life. But this captain kills Lucius, cuts him down, and over a period, I feel like it was 6 days, but it could have been longer. But over a period of time, it starts off slowly. The armor slightly changes tint to a pink. The guy's hair starts to fall out. Weird lines start to appear on his face, forming a large grid like a maze. Teeth become like needles. Skin turns white and grotesque. His feet retract from actual feet into cloven hoofs. And after either the 6th day or the 6th week or however long it takes, Lucius steps out of that tent, and he's back. And all that's left is a screaming, wailing face on his armor.
Which is the guy.
Exactly. It's why there's
Does Lucius take on the memories of this person? Or is he just Lucius?
That I actually don't know. I assume
I don't think he does.
He just takes.
He can talk to the souls though. He can like summon them out and make the like his doom siren is he actually gets all of the souls to scream simultaneously.
I wondered for so long what it was. Like I kept looking at the model and like, where's the doom siren? I don't see the doom siren. How does he just scream?
It's the armor.
I didn't realize that. It was I didn't realize that for like almost 90% of my hobbying in Warhammer 40k. I did not realize that until maybe like 2 years ago. I was like, wait a minute, it's the armor that screams.
He's the only one that doesn't have an amplifier for like a doom siren.
Yep, makes sense. Makes complete sense. I was like, wow,
dark.
That should, you know what? In the game, it shouldn't be a flamethrower. It should just be an AOE circle around him and hits everything, just like Nurgle's Rot.
Ugh.
Just like pop Lucius down. He is a bomb. He blows up. He does all this damage. Doesn't affect anyone with the Mark of Slaanesh. Your eardrums pop. -2 to your weapon skill.
Lucius could be so cool. They honestly all could be. If like they keep putting them on the track with like a Space Marine captain.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part.
Or like not even chapter masters.
No.
Like, yeah, exactly. Which is what they are. They honestly, like, they are... Like, Gulliman and Lucius... Gulliman's probably going to win that fight, but it's going to be closer than he would like it to be.
Yeah.
Same with Lionel Johnson. Same with going against Kharn. Ahriman and Typhus aren't really combat-focused.
No, they're not.
But,
I mean, Typhus can, but he's better... Like, honestly, he's better as a psyker, which is kind of bad for him. Yeah, just like that's the only thing, well, not the only thing, but it's one of the things I dislike about lore versus the tabletop. It's definitely not represented. These guys in the lore are like heavyweight juggernauts in their class, but on the tabletop, yeah, they're just like a lieutenant. Like Kharn is not anything to be really scared of. What he should be.
Like if you look at Sigmar, like the Lucius equivalent is Sigvald.
Yeah. Like out of all 4 of them, Lucius is the one in the tabletop sense that has the most killing potential, I think, personally. Just looking at his stats, what he can do, what he's capable of, If you had to pick one to put on the table and fight somebody, I'd pick Lucius. As much as I love Kharn, I would definitely pick Lucius. Especially when they keep him on that 25 mil base. Oh, I love that. I love that little avenue of like he's on a 25 mil base and I can move through models and do all these crazy little things.
I'm coming for you.
I know, everyone that says like, oh, when they bring, Emperor's Children release, they'll put Lucius on like a 40 mil base. I was like, if they do, they will ruin half of the martial prowess of that model.
Well, I love
like part of it is Lucius. Like, you can't do the half-inch thing on against the wall with him. You can't hide from him.
Yeah, you can't. In 9th edition, that was my favorite time because the one time I tried it, it worked and it was beautiful. I took Lucius, I put him inside a unit of Terminators, and because they were all 2 inches away from each other, he was able to heroically intervene through the unit and touch the enemy and kill the champion and then retreat behind them. There's nothing you could do about it. I loved it.
It was so silly, but so beautiful.
Yeah. It's like, by the way, you fight last. What? No.
But yeah.
And just so we're clear, I fight first. And all my friends here, they fight first too, so we're going to have that bit of fun today.
Emperor's Children in 9th was way more fun than Slaves to Darkness 10th CSM nonsense.
I got to play them twice. I fell in love with the playstyle, and I rapidly made models, and now we're in 10th, and so they're taking a break.
Oh, I know, yeah. The speedy boys.
I think I'm just going to wait it out and see what happens, see what the next rendition of the Chaos Champions are. Because Lucius is getting a new model. He has to get a new model. There's no way he's not getting a new model this edition.
He needs to. He needs... But it needs to still be on that 25 mil. But even if you want to like Primaris size and make him bigger, have him like pirouetting on his cloven hoof to be on that tiny
meet
base.
us halfway. Instead of 25, put him on that weird new 28.5 base they have now because you have to transfer all models over to that thing now. Put him on one of those. Hell, I mean, he might even do good on a 32, but if you put him on a 40, that's it. Doesn't make any sense.
It's true.
With how fast
even the 32 is too big.
Yeah, with how fast he is in the lore, he should be able to slip through he should be able to walk right through enemies and get right to the guys he wants to kill.
Yeah, 100%. I do love that he has precision in 10th, and it's so funny when people are like, "Oh, I charge into Lucius' squad," and you're like, "All right, well, I'll just rip your warlord out."
Yeah. He's like, "All right, cool, get ready for this bit of fun." Why? Oh, he has precision. What? And I fight first. Wait, what?
Look at how many attacks does he have? 8.
Deal with that. 8. What is it? AP 3, 2 damage.
Only AP 2 damage.
Still. Oh man, I can see the champion. I will face you. Looks down. He has like 17 holes in his chest. Luke's just standing there going, "You taste good."
No, I think between the 4 of the Lucius, I love Lucius, but
yeah,
that could be.
You love Lucius.
Would be the name
Kharn,
of the TV show.
Do without the other two. The other two.
I love Lucy.
Yeah, you love Lucy. I love Kharn. The other two can just go fight it out somewhere.
But I have like a deep respect for Kharn. Kharn is like a complicated character in a way that like I don't know. Ahriman's just kind of like sad boy. He's like the Gerard Way of the 41st millennium.
It also says a lot about us when we pick out of the 4 champions, then 2 of them have access to ridiculous psychic powers and all sorts of stuff. We pick the 2 that have no psychic powers whatsoever and focus in one category and one category only. Punching people in the face.
I mean, Lucius has got some like shenanigans going around him, and so does Kharn. Karn's got some like you talked about like the lightning sorcery like flowing off, and like can you imagine Kharn and Ahriman? Ahriman's like, all right, I'm going to see the future, and it's just like, wait, where's Kharn? And it's just like there's like a big like horn like blurry point around his future, and Ahriman's just like, oh no, and then there's like an axe comes through and takes him out.
I was like, wait.
Yeah, be a quick match.
if they ever tried to read the future on what's going to happen with them and Kharn, it's just an axe coming to the words of their hands. Like, oh, okay, it's going to happen at some point. Great.
Like, all right. It's like if they ever have their like chaos conferences and they're like all like at the same table and they're just like, all right, no one offend anyone.
Yeah. What I do want to know is what Kharn's end goal is. We know what the other three guys' end goal is, but do we even know what Kharn's end goal is?
I don't know if we know what Lucius's end goal is either.
Oh, his end goal is to be the best duelist out of everyone out there in the entire galaxy.
Yeah, but that's more like an ambition. It's not actually like a goal with an end.
Goal, yeah.
See, I think for him it is a goal. For Lucius, like anybody else, it's an ambition. For Lucius, like this is my friggin' goal. I'm doing this.
That's fair. But yeah, no, I can't think of like what Kharn's like end state is. Like when is he like, yes, I'm done? It was the
end of the audio drama Chosen of Khorne when everything was said and done and everybody's dead except for this old guy, Mavin Bitterspear. He looks at Kharn and says, "Why do I still live?" He's like, "You're weak. Khorne doesn't want your skull." Well, then what of me now? And what of the Blood Crusade? Kharn goes, "Oh, don't worry. My task is not yet finished. Not by a long way." So he has a task to do, we just don't know what it is. Unless it is just collecting skulls for Khorne.
Maybe he wants a bigger collection than Khorne himself.
I think he wants a Primarch skull. That would be a prize to hand over to a Chaos God. Be like, I am a Space Marine who killed a Primarch single-handedly on my own.
Which of the Primarchs
dropped.
Which of the Primarchs do you think he would?
I'd love to see him kill Rabute.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
I was thinking that.
Like,
I don't think Gulliman would ever give him the chance.
No, he wouldn't. Rabute would be too tactical on it.
You know who would give him? You know who would actually fight him?
Who?
Corvus Corax.
I was literally just thinking that. He's
the only one I think who would actually do the one-on-one with Kharn, because Corax would think he could kill him.
Oh, he absolutely think he could. He wouldn't be cocky, but he would just be like, "I'm Primarch. You're you."
Yeah. Like, Corax would truly believe that he could just and
I have a strong feeling Kharn would just like kick him really hard. really.
He'd be like, "I'm gonna turn into my bout of ravens," and it's just like get like the Khorne like, "Nope."
Yeah, he's just like on top of him, punching Corax in the face, going, "You thought my dad was bad? You ain't seen nothing yet, son." Wham, wham, wham. Because Angron was the one that chased Corax off the planet.
I'm trying to think of who else would. Vulcan wouldn't. No. Maybe the Khan?
Oh, the Khan.
Jagatai Khan?
Definitely do that. But
I actually, you know what though? I don't know if Kharn would win that one.
Oh, he wouldn't.
Jagatai is like horrifyingly
Jagatai can beat Fulgrim, man. Like Jagatai is like as good of a duelist as Fulgrim is, Jagatai, in my opinion, is better. He's better. And the scary thing is that you don't know what he's capable of. He made that apparent in the Horus Heresy books and the novels by saying that, like to Fulgrim, you shout your accomplishments from the top of a mountain. You let everybody around you know what you are capable of and what you have done. You know nothing of me. None of you know anything about me or what I can do or what I am capable of. And trust me, brother, if you ever cross blades with me, I would leave you choking. I said that to Fulgrim. Wow.
Shrouded in mystery.
He's one of my favorite Primarchs. Like, if I was ever to go, like, have a loyal Space Marine, it'd be White Scars. Like, Jagatai is just... He's so undervalued. He's so cool.
I never thought anything of the White Scars at all. Like, when I first got into the hobby, I looked at their armor, their whole deal. I was like, ugh, I don't like them. Then I read about Jagatai. I was like, I am mildly a White Scar fanboy just because of him.
I got this was years ago. They did a novella about the White Scars because like the White Scars don't really appear in the Heresy.
No, they don't.
Like, at all.
They're taken out of it completely.
But Brotherhood of the Storm is like dedicated to them, and I got it. It's like one of those like limited edition novellas, and Jagatai is just like so amazing through the whole thing because he's not like cocky, he's not arrogant, he's very reasonable, he's very measured, he's very assured. He like seeks counsel, he thinks things through, and you're like, wow, this guy actually like acts how you would expect a primer. Like he doesn't seem to have all the same flaws.
Yeah, he's almost like
he like encourages his legionaries to be like multidisciplinary, and he encourages them to be poets, and like honestly the White Scars are kind of the like if the Emperor's Children didn't fall. They have similar like ambitions in being like well-rounded and diplomatic and like concerned and thoughtful. No, Jagatai's like honestly super under recognized.
There was I can't remember who said it, but there was a quote out there from like a real person who, reading the Horus Heresy, said that when you read the last few books of the Horus Heresy, the last 3, there's a good portion of it where it's just the best parts are battle, Jagatai talking to somebody. Battle, Jagatai talking to somebody. Battle, Jagatai threatening somebody.
It's true.
He's just
so no, that's the one where I could see like actually, you know, it would be a good fight: Lehman Russ versus Kharn. Anger versus anger, and Kharn has Khorne on his side.
Both of them just drop their weapons and start fist fighting. Just fist fighting. I can see that. I can see it now. Lehman Russ just goes, okay, chucking these away. I don't need them. And Kharn goes, oh yeah, I don't need this either. It's like, oh, this is going good. They both walk.
I mean, Karn's taken anger onto the face and survived.
Barely.
But that was before he was the champion of Khorne.
That is very, very true. And there's been numerous times in the books that I've listened to where Kharn is immensely physically stronger than a lot of people around him. Like Azrael, he's pushing Azrael back with one hand. Like Azrael has 2 hands on his sword up against his chest, putting every bit of weight and strength he has into this, and Kharn is still pushing him back single-handedly.
Yeah.
The guy's like just, but look at his arm.
Just the one arm.
Yeah. Boy.
I like to imagine his other arm's just this skinny, lanky little thing. He goes, I just do Jim Day on the left, nothing else.
He's got the Trogdor arm, just like...
Yeah. Family Guy, when Quagmire comes outside after realizing what the internet is, he just goes, I gotta go get the mail. His arm's like 3 times the size of his body.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
I feel like we could, you know what, maybe we'll have to do an episode someday about, like, the grudge matches of, like, different characters.
Just talking about, like very, like, what is that?
Grudgeman Day.
like death battles, only theory Warhammer battles of what we think would happen and who should fight who.
Yeah.
And why Lucius and Kharn would kill basically everyone.
If they ever teamed up, the entire galaxy's in so much trouble.
It's a good thing Slaanesh and Khorne hate each other, because if they didn't, those two would be like able to work together, and yeah, Abaddon would not be the War Master.
Well, I mean, like, you know what? I think the only reason they would be able to work together right now is because of Abaddon holding them together like glue. Once Abaddon...
Oh yeah, no, but I'm pretty sure you have to keep them like separate.
You're on one side of the table, you're on the other side of the table. No. You're not taking the long side, you're taking the short side. You on that short side and you on that short side. But we're
Abaddon's got like 2 leashes just like holding them.
Yeah. Everyone else is talking while deliberating while he's just holding them both back from each other. Like, you just chill out. Just relax.
Well, any last thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, I think my last thought should be another show. Speaking of the champion of all the champions, the one who has the favor of all the Chaos Gods. And we're not talking about Be'lakor, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about the Despoiler himself. I would love to talk about Abaddon with you guys.
Angry Ron?
No, not Angry Ron.
Sorry, Angry Dawn. Angry Dawn.
Angry Dawn, Fabledon, or my personal favorite to those out there who've never heard this one, Abadabadoodon.
place.
Yep. I remember way back in the day when we had the little time, I was like, and Abadabadoo-Don's gonna charge right over here. And everything's good. And now I'm gonna pick his arm up because it fell off and just keep going.
How about Abadabba Ding Dong?
Ooh. The war something of chaos.
I look forward.
Abadabadoo-Don, the fail master of chaos.
I look forward.
He is the fail master.
I don't think he's a failure. That's why I want to talk about it. I want to change people's minds.
Oh, I know.
Abaddon is not
That's
a
true.
failure. Change my mind.
Ooh.
You know what? Okay, the whole Vash, and we'll talk about it in that episode, but the Vashtor arc completely changed Abaddon.
Oh, yeah. They've definitely...
Much for the better.
They definitely changed them for the better. And I would love to talk about the 13 Black Crusades and what his goals were and what his actual goals were.
And on that mysterious note, I want to thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to Chaos Divided wherever you're listening from, and you can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Chaos Divided 40K. If you're a fan of the show and want to join our growing Wholesome Hammer community, you can find us at patreon.com/Chaos Divided 40K, and you'll also be supporting the show. If you'd like to connect with us directly, we're at Nurgle_Snurgle and at Blushing Noise Marine, as well as at TeamBloodGod on Instagram and YouTube.
I don't post that often.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
We can still connect with you.
I just like being honest.
And until next time, bye-bye.
Ciao for now.
See you, everybody.